again, and welcome back. Here we are, day 4. We're going to continue talking about classes, structs, and enums. In the previous video, we made a struct. We made an instance of the struct. We accessed the properties or printed the properties of our instance. Let's continue, right? So here are a couple challenges you can try. The idea is to make an order struct. And an order is going to hold a drink order from a customer, right? So the order struct will have two properties. It'll have a name property, type string, and it'll have a boba property that'll be type boba t. So be sure to copy the boba t struct into your playground because we'll need that type, right? So you'll have to define it, okay? So this is another struct, but notice it's got two properties. One is a standard property that you've used already, and the other property is its type is the boba t. So actually when you define a struct or a class or an enum, it becomes its own type, right? So let's give that a try. Why don't you try it on your own, and then I'll walk through a solution, right? Okay, how did you do? Let's take a look. So here I've got the boba t struct at the top there. Let's create an order struct. So I'm going to create an order, struct order, and I'm going to give it two properties. Name, which is a string, and what did they call the other one? The other one was boba, right? So let's make that. So it'll be boba is type boba t, right? So we can use our struct as a type, okay? So there you go, challenge number 1. Let's make a function to create an instance of the boba t, right? Sometimes this might be good, in the case where maybe you need to validate some values. So for example, if someone asked for a t-type, you could check to make sure that t-type was in your database and that you could supply it, right? You could also check maybe stock on your, in your restaurant to see if that tea is available right now, because maybe you're sold out, right? And then you could also check like that maybe like sweetness is the correct level. I don't know what, right? But sometimes it's a good idea to have a function that creates an instance of a struct. Okay, so let's give that a try. I guess we can just copy this one because it's already written, right? So let's copy that and paste it into our code and see how it works. So I'm going to go back to Xcode here, and I'll put my create boba here. So create boba takes a type that is a string, a sweetness, and then it returns a boba t. And I have some kind of error here. Let's see, what does that say? Incorrect argument labels in call. Oh, because I guess this one says sweetness level, but when I define my boba tea, it just says sweetness. So you know what I'll do is I'll just copy that and change it here like this. There we go, right? So this will just be sweetness, and it'll match. Wait, let me see. What else am I missing? Oh, I guess I got T type, and then up here I just set this to T instead of T type. So let's change that one to T like this. And then T type here, like this is the name of the property that comes from the definition of boba, because you're making an instance of boba. So there's the name. This value here is the variable that is a string that is passed into the create boba method. And this sweetness happens to have the same name as the variable, right? So T type, comes into the function here, gets assigned to the T property, and then sweetness does the same thing, right? So let's use this to make an instance of boba. So here I made a regular instance, but I could also use my function. So maybe, I'll comment these out, and then what we'll do is I guess we can say boba, and then we'll say create boba, right? And so this takes a function. So maybe I want the jasmine tea, and the sweetness was 50%. And maybe I could do this one here too. Let's do let moba equal create boba, and then type will be oolong, and sweetness will be 25%. Okay, so there you go. Let's move on. So your challenge now is to create a create coffee function that takes the bean type, the sugar level, contains milk, right? So this should be a string, an int, and a boolean, and it should return a coffee struct, right? So you stop the video and give that a try, and then I'll walk through a solution, okay? Okay, great. How did you do? Well, here's a solution. Let's say create coffee, and our coffee will take a bean type, which is a string, a sugar level, which is an int. I'll use different names. I'm going to make sure I use different names than what this one uses, right? Except for I like has milk. Maybe I should I'll just leave that one the same, because I like that it reads well, right? Has milk. It's kind of obvious what they're asking for, right? So there we go. Has milk is a boolean. So what I want to do now is I want to create a new instance of coffee and then return it, right? So let's do let coffee equal coffee uppercase, and then I'll set the bean here. This will be the bean type. This will be the sugar level, and this will be the has milk. Okay, so it's like I'm taking the values from here and then plugging them in to my coffee instance. It comes out here, and then my function needs to return the coffee instance. So I'll say return the coffee coffee. There we go. Okay. So this would be our solution here, right? Wait. Oh, I forgot one more thing. I didn't specify the return type. So that means my function here has to have the arrow, and it's going to return an instance of coffee, right? So I use the uppercase C, and I name this as a type. Okay, so now this is good. So if I wanted to create an Andy coffee, we could say let Andy coffee equal create coffee, right? And bean type is Robusta. Sugar level is 25%, and has milk is false, right? And then this would return an instance of coffee, right? And it might do some validation or some other work along the way. So that's why we would use a function there. If you just have a simple type, we can just make the instance this way, and that's fine too. But oftentimes you'll want to do a little more work when you're creating the instance for one reason or another, right? And this also shows that the structs you create become types. So here, like coffee is a type that we can return. So it has to be an instance of this struct, right? And also inside the order class, it shows us that that we can also use a type here, right? So the type is boba. Okay, so great. Let's move on to the next slide here. So, I'm having this, for some reason, my slide here, it's cutting off the text at the bottom. Don't worry about that. This is pretty much the whole challenge right here. So your goal is to create your order struct, right? And write a function that, given input parameters, returns an order, right? So it's going to be type order, right? So we'll make a function. It's going to return an order. You're going to define an order struct, and then you're going to create an order using the function, right? So you should be able to do this, right? You should be able to call create order with T and sweetness, right? And then for customer and include boba, right? Boba, the little things that go in the drink, right? Okay, and then you should be able to log the new order, and when you do, it should print out this information here. Okay, so give that a try. right? Or actually, if you log the order, we should be able to get the boba type and the sweetness from it, right? Okay, so give that a try, and then I'll walk through a solution. Okay, great. How did you do on that? Let's give it a try here. So what we want to do is we want to create an order. So I'm going to say function. Actually, let's do struct. Did we already do struct order? I guess we already got that, right? Oh yeah, so I got struct order here, and order has the T type, the sweetness, and the customer name. So this would be the name, and then we'll have to pass these into our boba, right? Let's see. So let's do this, right? So I'm going to create the function here, function create order, right? So here's our we want to be able to call it this way, create order, and we're going to get what was it, like bean type is a string, what was it, sweetness and name, and includes boba, right? So we're going to do sweetness, sweetness int name is string, and has boba is bool. Okay, and then our function is going to return a type of order, right? So it's going to return an instance of the order class. Okay, so now we need to make a struct order, but that struct contains another struct, right? So let's make a new order. So let's say let new, actually I guess we need to make the drink too. So let's do let drink equal boba tea, and our boba tea has a T type, which, oh, I put bean type here. Maybe this should have been T type. Wait, type. There we go, right? Sorry, I was thinking of coffee, right? So I'm going to get the T type here, and that will be the string that we use, right? The sweetness is the same variable, so I'll just copy that and put it here. And now we've got the drink, and now we need to make the order, right? So let's do let, how about, I guess I did drink, let's do new order, right? And we'll set this equal to order, so that way we don't use the same name again. Maybe that's confusing if we use the same name. And then we'll take the name of the person ordering the drink and put it here. And then the boba drink is going to be the drink right there, right? Because that's an instance of boba, right? And then last, we're going to, it keeps warning me I've got a missing return statement. So I'm going to say return the new order, okay? Good. Okay, so that got rid of all the warnings and the errors. And I think we're good, right? Let's take a look. Great. So, I didn't actually, this says to print out the name right there, and you may have done that. And if you didn't, don't worry about it. We'll go over this in the next step. Let's talk about methods for a minute. So besides having properties, structs can have methods. Okay, let me actually, maybe I'm going to break the video here and I'll start that in the next video. So thanks for watching, and continue in the next video.